Good morning once again, the Talk Shop live from Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. Our program this morning brought to you in part by H&R Block, the Benton Rusty, Range Community Insurance, the Chocolate Cellar, and Chano's Village, 513 Boswell Drive in Laramie, along with Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming from their location at 4th and Harney. And in Studio 255 with me today, our guest on the Talk Shop, Mike Schilt. And good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
It is wonderful to have company in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. Always enjoy guests, and I thank you for your interest in being a part of our program here today. November 18th was a real important day in Wyoming government. And for those that don't know you, Mike, would you introduce yourself, if you don't mind, to our audience, and we'll get going from there and revisit November 18th, a really important day and testimony that you gave to our state legislator.
Yeah, you bet. So, yeah, my name is Mike Schilt. I've lived here all my life. My dad used to have a sporting goods store here when I was a kid, and my grandfather was the head of extension for several years at the university, and so I got a lot of history here. And then,
what was your career in?
Well, a few different things. I worked for Colorado Interstate Gas out west of town. I worked out there for 6 or 7 years as a mechanic, maintenance man, and then I worked construction for 7 years for Spiegelberg Lumber and some other companies, and then 26 years at the university. I worked at the engineering college as a master technician there. And then I just retired from there in 19 and had a little handyman business for a few years. And then last year my wife said, why don't you just retire? So I have, and I'm retired now, and my wife and I just enjoy life and have 12 grandkids and another one on the way.
And retirement just wasn't enough. You had personal drive to research, to involve, and to dedicate to testimony. November 18th, what culminated to come together and to an invitation or to your presence at the Wyoming legislature?
Okay, that's a good question. So I said I worked at the university for 26 years, but when you live in a university town, you just kind of see the comings and goings of the university. And I mean, there's benefits to having a university in your hometown, and there's drawbacks to it. And I kind of saw some of both growing up here and working at the university. But the thing that got me really big was kind of that I saw, there's waste at the university level. I mean, it's a government operation, so you got, and a lot of issues there. But the biggest thing is just that it becoming apparent that university owned land that we couldn't tax, and that we have city manager issues that they want us to have the big city amenities on small city budgets, and it just doesn't work. And so I got interested. Well, what really got me interested in pursuing this particular thing was this storm sewer thing, when they tried to drop that on us.
Surface water management
water management thing.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so I talked to Chelsea Matthews a couple of years ago, our county assessor.
Albany County assessor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she was trying to figure out how to get some money out of the university. It was about the time I retired, about 19, 20, somewhere in there. Anyway, we had talked, and it looked like there wasn't really any way that we could do this. Well, then, long last winter, I was thinking, well, we've got this money that we're not getting because the university's tax exempt. Mm-hmm. And so, and there's other tax exempt land. The state's got tax exempt land in Wyoming, in fact. And so I was like, well, how can we get money out of these guys? Because have you ever heard of the PILT program?
I heard you talk about that in your testimony on the 18th.
So the PILT program is a federal program, and that's where the federal government will pay a city or a county. I don't know how they break it down, but they pay for their land being a tax exempt. They pay that offset that federal funds, and it's called payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
So that's what the PILT program is. And I thought, well, why couldn't we do that with state land, and why couldn't we do that with the university? But I thought, well, anyway, I thought about it, and then fast forward, Clarence Stiver, one of the legislators over in Cheyenne, had contacted Chelsea Matthews and said, hey, can you put together some numbers? We'd like to see
The impact.
the impact of having government property. The revenue committee was looking at government tax exemptions, lands that are tax exempt, and why are they tax exempt, and do they really qualify? And if they don't qualify, why are we not taxing them? So, and this is
Had an audit been done, to your knowledge? Had an audit been done like this previously? I mean, this wasn't an official audit, but it was a beginning of conversation.
You know, I don't know the past because I wasn't just paying a lot of attention years ago.
Yeah,
but
I can relate. I've got many years under my belt, not being on top of many issues.
Ignorant of the ignorant things.
I can totally totally relate.
Anyway, but so Chelsea Matthews, she's a sharp gal. I mean, we're fortunate to have her. Anyway, she started putting these numbers together for the state, or for Clarence Stiver and the legislation over there, and I just called her one day and I wanted to know if she could put something together, roughly the same thing, because I was working. She
says, I just happen to have that.
Yeah, because I was working on some other stuff. I had done some public record requests of the university, and that's when I found out that, you know, the university, so that the university at one time had a contract with the fire department in 2000, when was it? 2000, actually, I actually have it right here, that they would have an agreement for suppression services from the fire department. Anyway, they also agreed to give $200,000, or up to $250,000 for a new fire engine. They needed the engine, a ladder truck that would reach up in the dorm, you know, higher on the dorms. It won't reach to the top, obviously, and that was the old dorms. You know, they're on Grand.
Yeah, the legacy ones they call legacy. McIntyre, Whitehall. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so they and then the university was going to pay 1% of the fire department's budget, give them that money. So that went on. That was from 98 until 2003, and then so they did give the money for the new fire engine. They did keep up their payments until 2003. And when that ended, since then, 2003, the university hasn't given anything to the city for anything. And so one of the public record requests I did was for ambulance calls or emergency calls to the university. And I did it for a 1-year period. I did it from August 1st of 24 to August 1st of 25. And there was 290 calls, roughly 280 some calls. And, you know, there were different calls for different things, like some were emergencies and some were non-emergent, some were just to be on standby. But, you know, that just takes fire department resources.
Wheels rolled.
Yeah, wheels rolled. And so I got, you know, and the bookkeeping, the way they had, that they don't track a lot of things. But I discovered that, you know, that cost the city of Laramie for that 1-year period, roughly between $50,000 and $75,000 that they didn't get reimbursed. They didn't. The university
no reimbursement,
none at all. And of course that doesn't include like off-campus calls for university students. That was just calls
strictly to University Avenue
on campus. Yeah, on campus. So then I'm thinking, well, that's quite a bit of money. I mean, that's not a lot, but so I thought, well,
it adds up.
It does add up. And then, you know, we found out there was anyway, so back to Chelsea. I talked to her about this, and she said, well, I'm working on some stuff right now that would kind of go in with all that. So she had the numbers put together, and she gave me the stuff for the university, because she had that all figured out, and then she sent me stuff for the state, and I started separating out state stuff. And of course, I don't know how to use Excel, but I kind of figured out how to get some of this sorted out, and then I sent that to Chelsea, and then she refined it and got those numbers. And so as it turns out, the University of Wyoming holds 16,000 acres in Albany County, which is not taxable. And then the state of Wyoming holds 217,000 acres. So roughly, if you figure out, work back the amount of money or the amount of land that's not taxed, and the tax revenue lost, it's between 4.2 and $5.2 million that Albany County can't collect every year because of the state land and more importantly, the University of Wyoming.
That's just in Albany County.
That's just in Albany County. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, university has holdings all over the state, but Laramie's obviously the biggest concentration of.
What conversation has to go into activation of PILT funds, payment in lieu of taxes? Who initiates those conversations, or is that something?
So as far as I know, the initial PILT program, since it was federally started, I think the feds, I'm assuming, contact county assessors in each county. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly don't. In Chelsea
We'll have to follow up with Assessor Matthews.
Yeah, how that whole program works, but we get.
The reason I ask, Mike, is I think it's really critical. The Talk Shop is centered on talking, listening, and learning. And I really have found when elected officials are unwilling to have discussions, when leaders are unwilling to listen entirely, we're really struggling to learn together how in what ways we can do better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your conversation with Chelsea, you guys prepare some important information.
Yeah. So, and did I gave you that paper?
You took it back.
Anyway, so so anyway, now we know how much we're losing. Well, I can't say losing, but somehow there's $4 to $5 million every year that we're not getting.
If it were owned privately and not by government, then
that's it. The way the
revenue would be much more substantial.
Oh yes, yeah, and well, let me. So like
we go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
Well, so when she broke this down, there's two different ways she broke it down. One is ag land. So if it was all ag land, it would be roughly $400 an acre for that 16,000 acres. And then if it was just what land prices go for in Wyoming, she figured that at $800 an acre. So there's two different ways. That's why there's the spread on the potential of how much money Albany County could.
That comprises the 4.2 to 5.2 million. That spread.
Yeah. And anyway, so so if we go back years ago, I had talked to some legislators kind of about this, just kind of feel them out of what, and I realized we had a problem, and I don't know, several years ago, I don't remember what it was, but we're talking to a legislator, and I remember they said, or the Laramie needed help. We needed some, because we have no tax, or we have no gas, no oil, no coal, no minerals. I mean, we really don't have much, except the university. And I was talking to him, and the legislator I was talking to at the time, I don't remember his name, but he said, we just sent $20 million over to the university. And he says, I don't know what you're complaining about. And I said, you sent $20 million to the university. Wyoming, the city of Laramie, the county will not.
You sent that to the University of Wyoming.
Yeah, they sent it to the University of Wyoming for whatever project, whatever
right.
The money was for. I don't recall. But and I realized that the legislature was not separating Laramie from the university.
Yeah, Laramie and the University of Wyoming, one sovereign, another sovereign.
Yeah, they're all the same thing.
They're all sovereign,
Right.
but the people are really getting hit.
So so that kind of bothered me for years, and then I kind of just let it go. And then when this thing came up with Chelsea, I was like, well, this might be so the revenue committee they're trying to figure out which tax exempt lands are really tax exempt, and why are they tax exempt, and how do they get tax exempt. And so that's why we went over to Cheyenne, was to present this information to them about this.
What connection did you make with the surface water management program in Laramie, adopted December 4th, 2024 by the City of Laramie City Council, and then implemented July 1st, 2025? What connection did you, as an interested citizen, make between the research you've been doing and that's been developing for years, and this particular surface water initiative, this management program itself?
Okay, so that's kind of why I got into all of this, is when they told us what they wanted, it was going to cost to do this program, the $135 million, which is totally ridiculous. But, I mean...
Why is it ridiculous? Why is
where do you get $135 million out of tax money out of people in Laramie? I mean...
You're saying the ridiculous nature is that the citizens of Laramie will be looked at for all of this.
Yeah, well, that's what they were doing,
Right,
with the way
right.
I don't know how they came up with this idea. Well, they did it because that's
Well,
what
and
other people were
And
doing.
it didn't occur overnight, right? In
Right.
150 years since Laramie's founding, these problems didn't occur overnight.
Right.
And by Mayor Cumby and Janine Jordan, city manager's own statements in city council meetings in the last year, funding for these particular areas like surface water management have been underfunded and lack the allocation of resources for decades. Now, that's a prioritization question for a lot of people.
That goes back to, we've got city management problems, which the legislature can't help us with. We've got to vote those problems out or do something, but that wasn't the focus of me going to
So
Cheyenne.
you did this meeting on the 18th. State legislature is looking at whether or not this land that's all held, you're talking 16,000 acres,
Well, that's just for the university.
That's just for the university. Then the state holds another,
Well,
what'd you say? Did you say
217,000 acres, but Chelsea had determined that 6,000 acres of that could not be taxed because it was being used for something.
Okay.
It did have a purpose. So, like, there might be roads on it, or there might be something on there that was.
But the distinguishing characteristic is probably Assessor Matthews determined that maybe the university was gifted from a deceased alumni a home or an estate or a land holding or property of some designation. Now that particular parcel, whether it was in Albany County or other, in Albany County, those holdings were outside of that number where Chelsea determined that something was being done with that property for state good, for public benefit.
So there's 217,000 acres of state land. 211,000 of it was determined that it's not being used for anything. So, and I can give you that more information on that, but
well, it's an important distinction. You guys have drilled into something, and you spoke about something about a 45-minute testimony on November 18th. It's available on the Talk Shop page as well as YouTube. You can look for this, and it was a really good information piece. It really shed some light on some perspective, like you've shared here today. But what what did you do going into, what did you want to accomplish November 18th? What did you personally want to accomplish?
I just wanted, and I kind of explained it to them over there. I really care about my community. I love Laramie. It's my home. My wife and I've raised our 6 kids here, and my kids are, my boys are all still here. They plan on never leaving Laramie. They love it here. My daughter, of course, got married and lives somewhere else, Kansas. But I want to help Laramie, and I don't know how to help Laramie. I mean,
sometimes you feel it's a struggle to know how to help.
Yeah, and so this is one thing I thought. Well, if we can kind of figure out. Well, we got to figure out how to manage our funds. We need to manage our city. We need to first, and this is my own personal opinion, but first of all, we need to focus on, I think, our EMS services. We need to make sure that our EMS services are that they're as good as we can have in Laramie, Wyoming, and there's no reason we can't have really good services.
The state, let's be really super clear here. The state of Wyoming, in operating the University of Wyoming, depends on, they don't have a fire department on the university role of salaried employees or equipment or a facility. So there's a need for city services. There's a need for that service to come from somewhere else. You can't have 6 residence halls, now 8 residence halls, and not have the public interest looked out for in that way. So EMS services comes into be really critical. And now they're looking at a new fire station because they need a bigger fire truck, essentially, to take care of the north and south halls, the new buildings, formerly where formerly the Weil Hall was located, now right across from Green Hill Cemetery, on 15th
and Willett,
15th and Willett, and beautiful facilities, absolutely beautiful. And every 60 years, maybe it's important to upgrade like that. But I would tell you, as an operator within paraprofessional and professional in residence life program, those facilities are outstanding. They have stood the test of time, and with ongoing facilities maintenance, those can continue to be valued. And in the last year and a half, Orhall's been offline, therefore 52 beds per floor, 7 floors. I think they were originally designed to serve 364 students in housing. Downey Hall's now offline as of August, and that makes 2 of them. Now, virtually 700 beds unutilized in our community, and this is amidst an affordable housing crisis.
Right.
Is it a crisis? Is it a crisis when we have previously paid for public program payments, housing and urban development, built those facilities along with blood, sweat, and tears and investment of state of Wyoming citizens, but we don't utilize that? And coming December, McIntyre Hall, the tallest, one of the tallest buildings in the state of Wyoming, and historically a tallest building in Wyoming, will be offline also. It will go offline. That's over 1,500 coming soon, unutilized.
And for what purpose?
Couple that with the government, whether it's county or state, they own the properties that schools are built on.
Right.
And when it comes to that fact, what is being used? What do you find the distinction is between where this committee was heading through the testimony of you and Assessor Matthews? What's your sense? What's your sense of where they're heading? Do you think they're heading in a good direction, talking about these issues?
Oh, I definitely do. Yeah, because it's not just Laramie. I mean, there's there's lands in all over the state that aren't being utilized for, if they're not raising capital on it, if it's not being used where capital can be raised on, then it shouldn't be taxed. But if it has the capability of raising capital, then let's let it raise the capital. Let's let it pay the taxes. Let's get that money back into the system.
November 18th, during your testimony, I heard one comment came, and it was off camera, so I don't know exactly who it was directed from to you. It was they encouraged you, therefore us, to have conversations with trustees about this topic, right? And what they contribute to the community. And you talked about, we need more than cultural events. We need more than fine arts events to go to. We need real. You didn't say real, but you're here. What was your response to him?
Well, basically, and so this goes back to conversations I've had with people over the years, that how wonderful it is to have the university, because you've got the football program, the basketball program.
You've got so many benefits.
Yeah. You got all these benefits. And I'd say, well, those benefits only benefit you if you enjoy watching basketball or football or symphony or whatever it is they're doing. But that doesn't benefit the community as a whole. And I said, the whole time those events are going on.
And they really don't subsidize the water that runs flooding down Cedar Street,
right,
or another area, 4th Street.
Yeah, or do anything to help offset the tax loss. That's our biggest. That's a huge loss. We figured it back. If if you go back 12 years at a 1% tax increase, 1% tax increase over a 12-year period in the past, it works out to about $38 million that Albany County
over 12 years.
Over 12 years, it's actually more than that, but that was just being conservative. So if you think Albany County or Laramie had $38 million in extra dollars right now, how much would that change the way we do things? How much could that help us or benefit us?
Well, it'd be 1/5. It'd be 1/5 of the money sought in the $138 million project designated for surface water management.
Exactly.
Right.
So
now there's also we can't overlook the fact that, what does your family do when money's tight?
You tighten your belt.
You tighten your belt. Do you feel government does that well, locally, federally, state?
Oh, no.
Do you see more growth than you see constriction?
More government growth?
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, we talked off air about who demolishes buildings in times of financial crisis.
Right.
Government will bulldoze a building. Is that the fate of Downey Hall, Whitehall, McIntyre Hall? These time operated facilities in Wyoming? Is that the fate of the schools that go vacant for way too long, and then they're not kept up with facility upkeep on a manual basis? So the justification comes in, well, they're just in a dilapidated state now. They're really lost. We can't save them. It's just going to cost too much. Well, you invested in their demise by not investing in them. in their upkeep.
Right.
You take care of what you have, or you will lose it. And it seems to be a foregone conclusion, frankly, that that's just what we'll do to get rid of that building, or to do what government wants to do.
Right.
Is the perspective of many in the public, because they don't listen to people say, well, why don't we put a care center in there? Why don't we put a facility in there to take care of the homeless? Why don't we make that a quasi this or a quasi that, or why don't we move quick? Why don't we act with urgency?
Right.
And why do we delay? You know, why in June of 2025 do 5 of our 6 Albany County legislators meet and talk with the public for an hour and a half? And I wasn't alone in begging that our legislators talk to the trustees. They have more influence than you or I do. They absolutely do, because they control the purse. They control, ultimately, they can affect and impact more directly the funding of the university in this case.
Right.
Right? So why would they not do that? Well, is it politically favorable or disfavorable to actually stand for the citizens of our community?
Yeah, you know, the university has I mean, I don't want to slam the university, but they do have a negative influence on our community.
They have a positive one too, Mike. I got my degree there. I'm proud of my marketing degree. I'm proud of my education in public administration. I'm proud of my law education. Now, you got your own experience, 26 years. You're proud of that. You know that. And so when we make statements that are this way or that way, it's really isolated to the moment. It's really targeted to a specific point in time where we don't feel listened to. We really don't feel engaged with fairly. And that comes to how many people are really surveyed without being guided or misguided. How many are neutrally surveyed in a statistically viable way?
Right.
Or how much public comment do you get beyond 3 minutes here or 3 minutes there? Scant in the weight of the total topic.
Right. Well,
regardless of what it is, when it is.
That's that amount of time you're given, you can't really express a lot of things in.
Plus,
in
how many
3 minutes.
people in the public? I'm sorry, but this is ludicrous that public is expected without experience to go in front of really important, revered, elected officials. That's intimidating for so many. And to not acknowledge that and to recognize that and appreciate that the public is not familiar with rules and procedures, they just want to be heard. And if they do it civilly, they should be heard.
Yeah.
I really believe that 3 minutes is absolutely astoundingly insulting to a purchase of a home is the number one largest investment most people will make in their life.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
A vehicle, probably number 2. Recreational vehicles, maybe exceeding regular daily drivers, but people on a real goal-driven life, they want to own a home. Many do, and they don't want multi-unit housing.
Right.
They want the little picket fence. They want they want that picture, that Norman Rockwell picture.
Yeah. Well, I've got 5 boys in town. One of them has a house. Well, 2 of them have houses. My oldest son has a house that we actually had moved off University of Wyoming campus so they could build a new engineering building years ago. We moved a house out in West Army for him and his family and built a house for them. And then I've got another son he's a firefighter. He has a house out in West Army that is a project house. He's not able to work on it right now, but yeah, my other boys all want to buy houses someday, and they're like, Dad, I just don't see how we're ever going to be able to do it. Of course, as a father, you want to do whatever you can to help your kids, but you can't give your kids the money to buy a house that's, 5 times, they're asking 5 times what the house is actually worth, because the system just is rigged against them, and the prices of housing just keep going up. So, which goes back to the University of Wyoming, the land holdings they have. They own so much land around Laramie they could give some of that to Laramie or sell it.
University of Wyoming, the state of Wyoming, you're talking about, owns so much land.
Yeah, well, it's the state, but I mean,
Pilot
just
Hill was
That-
an example of some land
that was a land
swapping.
swap. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a land swap.
Hey,
And they-
Mike Schilt, this is really good stuff. We're gonna take a break, and we'll give credit to a few sponsors: Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, and Laramie Range Ford. Just two more with I-80 Towing and Automotive Services. Three fantastic supporters of the Talk Shop on 93.5 FM. We'll be back with Mike Schilt in just a moment after these messages.